Light simply shines, and darkness is transformed. Chapter 9. Refugees of Conscience. As divine beings, each of us has direct, conscious access to immense power. The challenge for us, however, is that we can only access this power when we willfully choose to live in alignment with our true nature. This is self-empowerment. As human beings, we live at the boundary of the inner and outer worlds, and it is precisely at this boundary that we practice our use of free will. The inner world vibrates at the frequencies of light, and everything is luminous. The outer world vibrates at the frequencies of physical matter, and shadows take form in the density. At this boundary, every free will action produces either more light or more shadow, more creativity or more conformity, more love or more fear. This boundary is where we choose to thrive or to struggle. We do so by expressing our uniqueness fully, or by suppressing our individuality. We do so by bringing our use of free will into, or out of, alignment with divine will. Any path that leads a divine being into the world of shadows is a path that takes us away from the inner light of our true self, and our terrestrial human body does cast a shadow. What this means is that the terrestrial dimension is not our true home. We are visitors, discovering who we are by experiencing who we are not. This is why we are here. The word conscience means inner knowing. Our conscience is an inner sense that tells us when our thoughts, words, and actions are in or out of alignment with our true nature. Listening to our conscience is the first step in the process of developing our inner senses of empathy and telepathy. Honoring our conscience is the first step in the direction of self-empowerment. Unlike most of our senses that provide us with information about the present moment, our conscience shows us both the consequence and the potential consequence of our past, present, and future actions. This is highly beneficial because it means that we don't always need to commit an act in order to learn from the consequence. If we simply imagine ourselves committing a future action that is out of alignment with our true nature, our conscience immediately alerts us to the potential consequence. If we are listening and are willing to honor this inner knowing, our conscience helps us choose present moment actions that keep us on the path of conscious evolution. This basic process also helps us release and clear the cumulative density of our past. Whenever we feel a heavy conscience, or that something is weighing heavily on our conscience, what we are actually feeling is our conscience reminding us that we have something to let go of. Finding both the courage and the strength of will to release all past density in the present moment is also how we remain on the path of conscious evolution. Successfully navigating the world of light and shadow is not always easy, but it is always possible. Every human being is a light being in embryo, and each of us is welcome in the higher dimensions, regardless of our past. All we need to do is to fully embrace our true nature right now. This is self-empowerment. The instant we realize that everything we do is an act of co-creation with the universe itself, we have successfully discovered the true source of our power. Quite simply, the universe creates more of whatever we choose to focus on, not because we are masters of manifestation, but because the universe sincerely desires to show us precisely what we are doing with our lives. In this way, the universe is continuously helping us raise our level of consciousness, and we are all participants, regardless of whether we realize it or not. So when we look at the human condition as it is right now, do we realize that we are witnessing the universe sculpting a collective representation of our individual consciousness? Do we like what we see? Do we know if our individual contribution is producing more light or more shadow? And, most importantly, when we look at the human condition as it is right now, how does this make us feel? Our willingness to honor or ignore this specific feeling is the singular quality of self that defines our core frequency, and it tells the universe precisely if we are ready to enter a more supportive way of being or not. Our life path unfolds in the direction of our choosing, and the path of mutual support leads to a place that cannot be reached any other way. When we realize that we have the opportunity to nurture both our own development and each other's, simply by choosing to do so, everything else begins to dissolve. The simplicity of this statement is surpassed only by the depth of opportunity it represents. A refugee is anyone who realizes that a current situation is out of alignment with inner truth, and who willfully chooses to honor this realization by seeking refuge in a safer space. This act of seeking is the migration of the peaceful. This is the gentle path. When we realize that our innermost desire is simply to live our truth, and our inner knowing tells us that society today is not fully supportive of our true nature, we have a choice. The instant we choose to take a step back from current social patterns and seek refuge in a space that is fully supportive of our true nature, we become refugees of conscience. This willingness to act in support of self is a signal to the universe that we are ready to enter a more supportive way of being, and safe haven is born.